What's going on, Muscle Monsters? Alain Gonzalez here, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Greg O'Gallagher of KINOBODY.com. Greg, how you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing awesome, man. Happy to be here on the call with you. I appreciate you having me on.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem. I'm excited to talk about the things we're going to talk about today. All right, but first, there's going to be a lot of subscribers and followers who probably have never heard of you. And to those people, I want them to kind of get a better idea of what KINOBODY is all about. How did it get started? Why did you start it? And, what's your goal with KINOBODY?
Right. Yeah. So KINOBODY was really just about having a resource that people could go to. It was really focused on achieving that really aesthetic physique. So I'm not talking about getting big like bodybuilders and just getting huge overall or just rocking a bulky physique. I'm talking about getting really lean, chiseled, and muscular. Think of like Brad Pitt and Troy, Ryan Reynolds, or even just like Captain America. I mean, all these guys have great definition and proportion, but it's aesthetic, it's masculine, it doesn't resemble that of a bodybuilder. So that was like the main kind of motif with KINOBODY, was achieving that really lean, muscular physique. Because as everyone knows, there's this push in the fitness industry to pursue bodybuilding, to get huge, maximize muscle everywhere. And I mean, if we've talked to like everyone, I mean, if you ask girls about this, they don't like that look 95% of the time. They don't, ask any like gorgeous girl, like, oh no, I'm like turned off by like, huge bulky guys. And that's not to say that we're just working out for women, but the thing is, if we're going to work out and get strong, powerful, and feel great and get confident about ourselves, sure, let's be attractive to women too. Let's get let's add another win in there. Let's add another, bird in there with the stone. So that's really been the main focus, is a program or a site dedicated to that kind of look that also focuses on becoming athletic. I teach people how to do one-arm chin-ups and muscle-ups and 55-inch box jumps. So that's been the main focus, as well, learning to have fitness enrich your life, not take it over.
Right, and that's a great point, what you just said about having fitness enrich your life as opposed to take over your life. As I've said before, a lot of people in the fitness industry, they get a little obsessive, especially when it comes to things like nutrition, right? Where, their whole focus throughout their entire day is, what's my next meal going to be, And this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this interview, because your approach is so different. It's an approach that people do use already, but the way that you've adjusted it, I think is going to be very beneficial for those people who are really struggling with their diet, especially those who, they want to calculate everything, they want to weigh everything, and it gets obsessive, right? So, yeah. So basically this approach is intermittent fasting. But it's a little bit different. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your approach to intermittent fasting and why you think it works so well?
Yeah, so this is what I kind of put together in the aggressive fat loss program, which has been just absolutely incredible. It's the whole component, the whole idea with the aggressive fat loss program was that if you want to lose fat fast, usually there's a lot of negatives. You're really hungry all the time. Your testosterone levels go down. You can't sleep well. And it's just brutal, and like by the time you finish it, you just can't sustain your results, so you end up going back. So I wanted to create something that, if we want to lose fat fast, I'm talking about like 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds a month. How do we make that enjoyable? So I actually start using intermittent fasting, strategic black coffee, some strategic fruit snacks, some really big filling meals, like one huge meal every day, a smaller meal, and just set the diet up with just these kind of brilliant little strategic steps that make eating less calories so enjoyable. And it's not a low-carb diet. It's not a low-fat diet, because the reality is both carbs and fats are imperative to promoting natural testosterone in men. So a lot of these crash diets, low-cal diets, or even bodybuilder diets, they go low in fat or low in carbs, and it hampers people's testosterone. That's why a lot of bodybuilders and fitness models, they have to be on drugs. Otherwise, they wouldn't produce testosterone optimally. Now, you can go a bit lower in carbs, a little bit lower in fat, but when you do both of them, bring both those down together, it has negative effects. I've had my testosterone has been sky high since doing this approach, even though I'm taking less calories and I'm at the leanest I've ever been. So, I mean, there's that whole component of it. And as well, like being able to build strength in the gym, because a lot of people doing this aggressive fat loss program, they're actually gaining strength on the lifts. You know, they're going up on the incline presses, their weighted chins, their dips, and it's pretty remarkable to see, because a lot of people don't think you can gain strength on like an aggressive cut. But when you set it up in the right way, with the intermittent fasting, getting a lot of those calories late in the day, when humans are meant to like, you know, be able to gorge on food, like really magical things start to happen.
All right, and so we're talking about intermittent fasting, right? And a lot of people out there are gonna wonder, okay, well, I can do the intermittent fasting, but am I still tracking my macros? And this is something that we've discussed, but I think it's something that would bring a lot of value. So why don't you go ahead and touch on that, on whether or not someone should track their macros while doing this approach?
Right. Well, the thing is that, like, as far as building a great physique is concerned, the macros matter. If you're trying to lean down, you need to get into a calorie deficit to burn fat. You need to get optimal protein, but that doesn't mean you have to track everything obsessively. If you're doing like all the different strategies to talk about in aggressive fat loss, intermittent fasting, these different like meal setups and distribution patterns that really make it so hard to even hit maintenance. So you'll stay so satisfied at a deficit. If you're doing all that, well, then you can kind of just eyeball it and you'll be fine. Like, I actually like not having to track things, because it takes, I mean, see, the thing is like we have something known as like we have willpower, and it's not like a infinite resource. We deplete willpower every time we have to use it. There's something known as like decision fatigue that Tim Ferriss talks about on his podcast. Making too many decisions in a day can actually deplete your willpower reserves. So actually, I think that once you get the hang of tracking it, you're actually better off just being able to eyeball it, because it's going to take willpower every time you measure things exactly. You know, try and fit this in and that in. And so if you can just be in the ballpark, you know, things will happen. Like, you'll see those results really, really well. Then if you hit a roadblock, just track things and make sure that you're in the right, you know, like you're in the right zone. And that's the approach I take. I think it works amazing, because I used to be hung up about tracking things exactly, and it wasn't that stressful, but it just kind of was. It wasn't necessary. And then I kind of just got too stuck in the macros, and I was like kind of having a hard time sticking with it, probably because of the willpower depletion. Then when I went traveling, I actually found myself losing weight and leaning down because I didn't care about the macros. Sure, I was like, okay, I need to kind of be in that 2,200 calorie ballpark. I'm just going to go out, eat, and just try and just go with the flow. And then I was like, wow, this is so much easier to stick to because I wasn't obsessing about the macros.
Right. And so there's something else I wanted to talk about, something I saw in a video of yours that I watched actually yesterday, right? And I think it was a great point, and this is why I want to even mention it. And you talk about, well, really we're talking about a diet that is sustainable. And when you have a diet that is sustainable, like the one we're talking about, where it doesn't get overly obsessive to the point where you have to take breaks from it, it becomes more of a habit. So what happens is you're not going through the yo-yo dieting that most other guys go to, because what they'll do is they'll do a drastic cut on, some extreme diet. They'll get absolutely shredded, but then once they go back to their normal eating habits, they just blow back up. So they're not actually able to maintain that lean physique year round, because not because their diet sucks or anything like that, but it's because they don't have that habit. They're going back and forth from, cutting to bulking and cutting to bulking. And so I kind of just wanted to ask you, what kind of a role does maintaining a lean physique play in overall health, but more than that, what are the benefits of staying lean year round as opposed to going back and forth between bulking and cutting?
Well, the reality is you don't have to get fat to build muscle or build strength. In actuality, it's going to hinder you because the strength that we're after, as far as being athletic and aesthetic, because that's what most people want, okay? They want to be athletic and aesthetic. As far as being athletic and aesthetic, what's most important is something known as relative strength. How strong you are proportionate to your body weight. Sure, you could be 250 pounds, bench 300. I don't give a shit. Who cares? But if you're 175, rep at 300, that's impressive, because that's the strength relative to your body weight that improves your athleticism and the way you look. because the stronger you proportion to your body weight, it just naturally means that you have a low level of body fat, because any excess body fat is not going to help you. So the only strength you want to build, as far as building great physique, is strength that improve when you improve in relative strength, because that means you're adding muscle without fat. So when people do bulking diets, sure, maybe they add 20 pounds onto their bench press, 30 pounds, but then their scale weight, the amount of fat they gained, went up big time. So their relative strength maybe not even improved at all. So I actually think it's better to stay lean year round. If you want to look great, you'll be more chiseled. Your muscles will have more definition, proportion. That's the thing, is building great physique is all about proportion. It's not about size. It's not about size. You can have 17-inch arms, but if you have a 36-inch waist, that means nothing. Just be like big, bulky grandma arms. So it's about proportion, and the way you have proportion is you keep that waist down. And so staying lean, you can maintain that low waist, whatever it is for you, depending on how tall you are. Maybe it's a 31, maybe it's a 33. But if you have that slim waist, then all that strength of muscle you have counts. If you have a 36-inch waist, you can have a 45-inch chest, who cares? That portion's not there. Sure, you have a big chest, but your waist is here. You want to be here and have that V shape. And so people are obsessed with the whole idea of gaining 20, 30, 40 pounds, but they'll look way worse, and then they have to cut for a long time to get back to square one, when they would be way better off just slowly building muscle while maintaining a low body fat.
And this is 100% true, because this is something that I've actually gone through personally, where I used to get fat and thought I was just getting jacked. And I didn't even look like I lift when I didn't have a shirt on, but I could be, 20 pounds lighter and look 10 pounds heavier, just because you can see the definition and you can see all the muscle mass. So you actually look bigger and more muscular when you're smaller and leaner. But another thing that I really noticed is that my relative strength is much, much higher when I am leaner. So if I'm at the peak of a bulk, where I'm relatively fat, my lifts will be X. And although during the cut, it might decrease slightly, the relative strength, when we're talking about, again, relative strength, is actually much, much higher, because now I weigh less, I'm much leaner, but I'm pushing close to the same amount of weight. All right, so I just kind of wanted to, rant about that. But I wanted to talk about one more thing, and this is something also that I've seen in one of your videos recently, and it's about something that you mentioned. You mentioned something that most people say is impossible, and that is building muscle while losing fat at the same time, and how this can be done with intermittent fasting. So I just wanted to have you just go over how that works.
Yeah. So like the first thing to say is no one's going to just drop 20 pounds of fat and gain 20 pounds of muscle in a few months like that. It doesn't happen. But what I do see is, a lot of people that do cutting diets and they lose whatever, 20, 30 pounds, a lot of times a good portion of that is muscle. But when you diet correctly, when you do things correctly, you do proper strength training, you focus on that relative strength, and you do an intermittent fasting setup, then actually I see muscle growth. Because here's the thing. The cool thing with intermittent fasting is, like, it's hard to be anabolic and catabolic at the same time. I talked to Lau McDonald about this, basically that to build muscle, you have to be in an anabolic state. You have to have that growth occurring. And to break down body fat, you have to be in a catabolic state. Your body has to be breaking down stuff. And people are scared of catabolism. Oh my God, I'm catabolic. You have to have that catabolic activity to burn fat. So you don't want to be 100% anabolic all the time. You don't want to be just bulking diet 4,000 calories a day all the time, because there's going to be a lot of growth of body fat. Anabolic isn't just muscle; it's fat. Like it just means growth of tissue. Same thing with catabolic. You don't want to be catabolic too long. So the power of intermittent fasting is you oscillating between a period of catabolic activity, which is pretty much focused on fat burning, because you're not fasting for 3 days. You're fasting, until your first meal of the day around lunchtime. And so you have that period of catabolic activity. Growth hormone comes up, which helps preserve muscle protein. You maximize fat burning, and then you flip into this period of overfeeding. You're taking in a lot of calories. Sure, you might be still eating in a deficit, but in that concentrated period of time, it's a lot of calories. So you can support nutrition partitioning, supporting muscle growth. So I've actually seen, what I've seen is people that might cut, 15, 20, 30 pounds of fat, and then their strength goes up, 15, 20 pounds in their key lifts. And, you put on a, good 4 or 5 pounds of muscle. And that's not someone that's already at their elite, you know, someone that's already at like their genetic peak isn't going to do that. That said, what they could do is, let's say, you know, you're doing a cut and you just have like a weak point that's like, maybe it's your chest. It's your chest is a weak point. Then you could like kind of drop the volume in some muscle groups, increase the volume on your chest, and then actually lean down, but see your chest start to pop a bit, which is kind of cool.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And that pretty much sums it up. So anyways, guys, make sure to check Greg out. Greg, why don't you let them know where they can see your stuff?
Yeah, you can go find my stuff over at KINOBODY.com. That's where I'm posting articles and podcasts and videos. So that's the best place to go. And then I'm very, very active on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you search KINOBODY, that's my channel.
Awesome. And if you guys want to check him out, I'm going to put links to his website and his YouTube channel down below. So go check that out. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
All right. Thanks for having me on, man.